And on this, we need to clarify another matter, particularly because it's been an affliction in this community, and that is al-isti'anatu bil-jinni, that seeking assistance from al-jinn. The ruling regarding this matter is that it is not permissible, and the dalil for it is that when the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam on that occasion was praying, as the hadith states, تفلت البارحة إفريت من الجن, that an ifrit min al-jinn. So from amongst the most powerful jinn are a specific type called al-ifrit. تفلت البارحة, that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam was addressing his companions, and he mentioned that yesterday an ifrit from the jinn came to me quickly. ليقطع علي صلاتي, in order to sever my salah, to corrupt my salah. فأمكنني الله minhu, then Allah Azza wa Jalla, He gave me the ability to overwhelm him, to take control of him. فأخذته, so I took him. وأردت أن أربطه في سارية من سوار المسجد, and I wanted to tie him to a pillar from the pillars of the masjid, so all of you could see him, could see his state. فذكرت دعوة أخي سليمان, then I remembered the supplication of Akhi, my brother Sulaymaan alayhi salam. Then he recited the ayah in Surah Sad, where Sulaymaan alayhi salam said, قال رب اغفر لي وهب لي ملكا لا ينبغي لأحد من بعدي إنك أنت الوهاب. He said, my Lord, forgive me and give me a kingdom that nobody will be given after me. إنك أنت الوهاب, indeed you are al-Wahhab. So Allah Azza wa Jalla, what was the kingdom that He gave him? He said, فَسَخَّرْنَا لَهُ الرِّيحِ تَجْرِي بِأَمْرِهِ رُخَاءً حَيْثُ أَصَابَ. So we made a the wind, subservient to His command, and it blew gently wherever He wanted it to go, and He would travel with the wind. The wind was His means of transportation. And then Allah Azza wa Jalla said that كُلَّ بَنَّاءٍ وَغَوَّاسٍ وَآخَرِينَ مُقَرَّرِينَ فِي الْأَسْفَادِ. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, and from the shayateen of the jinn, كُلَّ بَنَّاءٍ وَغَوَّاسٍ, that every builder and diver from the jinn were made subservient to Sulaymaan, and others were shackled and fettered in chains. So because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam remembered that dua of Sulaymaan alayhi salam, he didn't continue, and he left it, and the jinn returned back in a state of disgrace, as the hadith states. What does that narration prove? That even Sayyidu Waladi Adam, that the Sayyid, the master of the sons of Adam alayhi salam, Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he did not have the ability to control the jinn, because that supplication had already been made and responded to by Sulaymaan alayhi salam, and they were therefore subservient to him. What does that mean, subservient to him? In Surah An-Naml, Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned that when Sulaymaan alayhi salam addressed his council of ministers, he said, Ya ayyuhal mal'u ayyukum ya'tuni بِأَرْشِهَا قَبْلَ أَنْ يَأْتُونِي مُسْلِمِينَ. He addressed his ministers and he said, "O company, أَيُّكُمْ يَأْتُونِي بِأَرْشِهَا." Who amongst you can go and bring to me her throne, meaning the throne of Bilqis, who was the Malika, the queen of Saba in Yemen. Who can go and bring to me her throne قَبْلَ أَنْ يَأْتُونِي مُسْلِمِينَ, before they come to me as Muslimin. Right, the story is lengthy, but the point to note is that he had presented to her the dawah of Tawheed and to embrace Islam. Right, that had already been happened before, and then she was discussing the matter with her council. Meanwhile, Sulaymaan alayhi salam with his ministers, he addressed them and said, "Who amongst you can go there and bring me her throne before they come to me?" Who was the first person to speak? قال إفريت من الجن. An ifrit min al-jinn. So the ifrit, who were the most powerful amongst the jinn, what did he say?
So I can bring it in before you stand up.
Right. أنا آتيك به. Right. قبل أن تقوم من مقامك إني عليه لقوي أمين. Right. That I can bring it to you before you stand up from your position, and indeed I am, with regards to this matter, قَوِيٌّ أَمِينٌ. I'm powerful and I'm trustworthy with regards to this matter. Right? Now if we take into account that he, alayhi salam, he never differed or disputed with what the Ifrit said. So when the Ifrit said that I can bring you her throne before you stand up, he didn't say no you can't, he didn't say you're a liar, he didn't say well prove it, he didn't say anything. But it was another person who said, and I can bring it to you قَبْلَ أَنْ يَرْتَدَ إِلَيْكَ طَرْفُكَ, before the blinking of an eye. And he did that, and when he saw it, he praised Allah Azza wa Jalla. But the point to note is that Sulaymaan alayhi salam, his mastery or control over the jinn was to such an extent that he knew which one of them was trustworthy. He knew which one of them was speaking the truth. And he could verify it by their actions. Right? That was specific to Sulaymaan alayhi salam. Even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not have that ability, which is why it was given that, which is why you have the supplication. But the point to note is that if that was specific to Sulaymaan alayhi salam, how can a person now come and claim that he too can control the jinn to the extent that they will work for him and perform these actions? It can only occur in one situation, which Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions, Surah Al-An'am, يَوْمَ يَحْشُرُهُمْ جَمِيعًا, that Allah Azza wa Jalla will gather them all on Yawm al-Qiyamah. And then He will address the jinn, يَا مَعْشَرَ الْجِنِّ قَدْ اسْتَكْثَرْتُمْ مِنَ الْإِنسِ. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, يَا مَعْشَرَ الْجِنِّ, O company of jinn, قَدْ اسْتَكْثَرْتُمْ مِنَ الْإِنسِ. What that means, istaktartum min al-insi, means adlaltum kathiran, that you have misguided many amongst mankind. Istaktartum min al-insi means, as the Mufassirun explained, that you have misguided many amongst mankind. Then Allah Azza wa Jalla said, وَقَالَ أَوْلِيَاؤُهُمْ مِنَ الْإِنسِ. Then their awliya, their friends and allies from the ins will say, رَبَّنَا اسْتَمْتَعَ بَعْضُنَا بِبَعْضٍ. Rabbana, our Lord, istamta'a, some of us made use of others. That's what happened. We made use of one another. How does a human make use of a jinn? How does a jinn make use of a human? By disobedience. It's an agreement of sin and transgression that allows them to work and cooperate between themselves, because ordinarily there should be no interaction between men and jinn. In order for it to happen, there will be an act of disobedience involved, usually concerning shirk and kufr. That's why the awliya from the ins will say, istamta'a ba'duna bi ba'd. إنه كان فريق من الإنس يؤذون بفريق من الجن فزادوهم رهقا. Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions Surah Jinn that indeed there was a fariq, there was a group from the ins, يؤذون, they would seek protection with a fariq, with a group from the jinn, and what happened? زادوهم رهقا. It increased them in their despair and their misguidance. That was the end result of men being involved in the affairs of jinn. That increased them in their misguidance and their despair. And it was all forbidden. Which is why they have their obligation to worship Allah Azza wa Jalla, and we have our obligation to worship Allah, and there should be no interaction between them. Rather, if a person wants to remove magic or sihr or al-ain, the evil eye, or these matters, then we already have a ruqya which is complete and perfect, and that is in the form of Surah Al-Fatiha and Al-Mu'awwidhatan, Surah Al-Falaq wa Surah Al-Nas.